Hello guys and gals, and welcome to another episode of Upgraded Sets. Although this is an episode of Upgraded Sets where we're not going to be able to upgrade the items because they are both already elite and there's only two of them. So this is the set known as Bul Kathos Children. Bul Kathos Children is a two-piece set. It involves one mythical sword and one Colossus blade. And as you can see, just a very pretty blade. In fact, I've always rather liked this. Let me see if I can get this just right so I can really show you the, there you go, the shininess of the blade. Look at how beautiful that is. It's just freaking awesome. Now, Bul Kathos Children, even though we can't upgrade it, it already has been upgraded. So to start this off, let's take a look at the original version, and we'll say hello to my original self. So this is my original video of the Bul Kathos Children, and right here I kind of just very briefly go over the set bonuses. So this is the original set bonus. The M stats there. Of course, that's going to help you out a lot versus undead and demons. Plus 20 to fire damage and 25 to defense. And that's really kind of all they changed. So the plus 2 to skills was always there. The 200 to attack rating was always there. The 200% damage to demons was always there. The 200% damage to undead was always there. The 20 to fire damage and the 25 defense is what they changed. And they also added some other things as well. And we're going to go over those together. So let's take a look at the set that we have now. And let's see what it looks like at this point. So, Bul Kathos Sacred Charge Colossus Blade is 75 to 195 one-handed damage, 174 to 345 two-handed damage, which of course doesn't matter, because if you're using it in the set, you're not going to use it two-handed. It is a very fast attack speed weapon because it does have 20% increased attack speed on it, as well as it has a dex requirement of 110, which is relatively high, and a strength requirement of 189, which is really high. The level requirement on this is only level 63, which is relatively low. We have 20% increased attack speed, 200% enhanced damage. All these stats are static, by the way. They do not change. 35% chance of crushing blow, which is the chance to deal a huge amount of damage to the monster's current HP. So it is 25% of the monster's current HP if they are a regular monster. It is 12.5% versus bosses. And it is only 10% versus the PvP player, so when you're fighting another player. This weapon also has knockback on it, which is one of the big downsides of this particular weapon. In general, Bul Kathos Sacred Charge has always been a weapon I think people have wanted to utilize, but couldn't really do so because of the knockback effect. If you're using an ability that has knockback on it, it's usually not bad. But if you are using an ability that does not have knockback on it, knocking the monster away from you can often interrupt your DPS. And this can be an issue because if you're trying to do as much damage as possible and you're knocking the monster away from you, you have to spend that extra time to chase them down, and this in turn causes your DPS to go down. Recently, in a test of DPS versus DPS, they put an Act 2 mercenary up against an Act 5 mercenary, both decked out in all the equipment that they could get. And I pointed out, rightly so, that the Act 5 mercenary was never going to win that DPS contest, even if they were exactly equal in DPS, because the Barbarian mercenary is constantly knocking people away from him with the bash ability. And this creates a situation where the merc has to chase things down. That extra bit of time where he has to chase them down loses him DPS, and in turn also makes him slower than the Act 2 merc. It really depends on whether you want to have knockback on your merc or not. If I was a sorceress, knockback on my merc might be a good idea. If I was a melee character, not so much. We also have all resistances 20 on this sword, which is definitely nice considering we have to give up a shield slot for this. It can be socketed, of course. Both weapons can. And the other weapon, Bul Kathos Tribal Guardian, is a mythical sword. This one is 120 to 150 one-handed damage, very fast attack speed, 124 dexterity, 147 strength requirement, level 66. It has 20% increased attack speed also, and that is in part why it is a very fast attack speed weapon. 200% enhanced damage, 50 to poison damage over 2 seconds, which is absolutely negligible. 20 to strength, which is of course nice because the 147 strength on the mythical sword is rather low compared to the 189 on the Colossus blade, which allows you to boost your strength from 147 all the way up to 47, 57, 67. And that means you only need 77, 87, 88, 89. So basically only about, 22 extra strength points to reach the Bul Kathos Sacred Charge, because you do get that nice 20 strength bonus on the sword. It also gives you fire resistance 50%, which is a pretty big boost to fire damage. Fire resistance, sorry. And I think all in all, this sword right here can actually be utilized by a lot of people, even just by itself. It's relatively fast. It does relatively nice damage at a decent level. And if you don't have anything better, this sword can certainly fill the slot. And it is quite sexy to boot. I really do like the color of these blades. And I don't really quite know why. But they really are quite pretty. It's a fetching color. Now, the complete bonus is +2 to all skills, 200 attack rating, 200% damage to demons, and 200% damage to undead. Now, that was what was on the item before. Now, in the patch notes, they added in 10% life stolen per hit, which is definitely very nice. And I will assume that 10% life stolen per hit applies to both the swords together. Which is definitely probably a very good thing. So that means you technically have 10% lifesteal on both swords. The 20% deadly strike also, I'm assuming, applies to both swords. So definitely very nice there. And that, of course, is going to stack with your critical hit. So if you have your skills leveled up and you are rocking, your max sword mastery, you're going to have 30% critical strike. And that 30% critical strike is going to stack with the 20% deadly strike. So it doesn't stack like directly, so you don't just go to 50%. What it does is that your 30% critical strike will roll first, and if it fails, then your deadly strike will roll. And they can both fail, but they can't both succeed. So if critical strike succeeds, deadly strike will not roll. If deadly strike succeeds, then critical strike will not succeed. It's just how it works. It does increase the percent chance, though, that at least one of them will succeed by having both of them. We also have 200 defense. Pretty decent amount of defense. It will get multiplied quite nicely by the shouts. So as you can see here, we have 11,561, and the 200 defense that we get from this is multiplied out quite nicely and pretty much equals about, 1,600 defense in the long term, because as soon as your shouts multiply that out, you end up with a lot more. Of course, there are other things that could multiply that defense, like if you were using a Fortitude, you would get another multiplication from the Fortitude's chilling armor, and it's a very interesting little bonus to add on there, especially considering the original was only 25. So they added 175 more defense. They also added more fire damage as well. So we originally had 20 fire damage, and they bumped it up to 200. So they added 180 more fire damage. 180 more fire damage, 175 more defense. Then, just to really top it off, they added 10% lifesteal, which is definitely going to apply to both weapons. And then they added 20% deadly strike, which will also apply to both weapons. So the buffs that they gave to this are actually kind of substantial. Deadly strike is not a small buff by any means. It's double damage. So any physical damage that you do ends up getting doubled. And barbarians have a lot of abilities that will actually convert physical damage into other abilities, and deadly strike does work with them because of the way that they're calculated. I remember researching this a while back. And then lifesteal, of course, also. The weapons never had lifesteal on them. So if you wanted lifesteal, you had to get it from another source. But the interesting thing here is that you no longer need to, because they've given you 10% lifesteal on the swords. And technically both swords should have 10% lifesteal. So let's take these weapons out real quick and let's go play with them. Let's go kill Eldritch, shall we? Spin to win, barbarians, boys. Spin to win. I'm a spin to win, barbarian. I'm a spin to win, barbarian. I'm gonna spin to win. I'm gonna win to spin. I'm gonna spin and a spin and a win to spin, barbarian. The barbarian. Who the hell are you? Oh, hello, Viper Slime the Unholy. So as you can see here, there are certain situations where it kind of makes the whirlwind worse. So the knockback effect on the weapon causes him to get knocked out of my whirlwind, and he takes less damage. And I don't like that. I don't like him taking less damage. I want him to take more damage. What did I just find? What is that? That's the, what, Hades? Yeah, Black Hades armor. I already did a video on that. Look at me finding random uniques. Now, the important thing to note about knockback is that it doesn't work on bosses. So, if you're fighting a monster that is considered a boss, like Shank or Eldritch or Diablo or Bale or anything like that, any monster that is not a like a piece of garbage, basically, like human flotsam, you can't actually knock those back. So there's a lot of things that you can't do to like elite monsters. So it's actually not bad. Look at that. Look at their red now because I got enchanted. Look at my shiny blades. Look at my shiny. Look at them. All in all, Bul Kathos is one of those odd sets. The sword obviously can't be used by anybody unless you're willing to use it in the two-handed configuration. Not a lot of characters even will utilize two-handed weapons. The one-handed sword can be utilized by just about anybody who would like a one-handed weapon, and it's not exactly a terrible weapon. But since there is only two pieces in the set, and you have to put them together to get the bonuses, that makes it uniquely a barbarian set, especially since one of the two items is a two-handed sword that can only be wielded in one hand by a barbarian. All in all, I'm not sure if they did enough to make this set viable. I feel like the last thing that they really need to do is remove that knockback. I feel like if they remove that knockback, this set would be something that people would look forward to putting on a barbarian until they manage to get something better, that is. I have no illusions that the Bul Kathos is considered a endgame set, but it is certainly closer to an endgame set than it's ever been before. The addition of the 10% lifesteal and the 20% deadly strike has certainly brought it up a notch, and the bonus fire damage and defense is certainly not bad either, especially considering, you know, like I said earlier, you got to give up a shield. So they gave you some defense for giving up your shield. They gave you some resistances for giving up your shield. And also 10% lifesteal is actually pretty sweet. Well, yeah, that's pretty much it. As always, I do appreciate you guys and gals watching my videos, even when it's about a two-piece set. And as always, keep watching.